It's easy to hear your favorite artist on WFPK from wherever you are. Listen on your smart speaker, live stream from our website at WFPK.org from Louisville Public Media.
Consequence Podcast Network. Hey, welcome to another edition of Kyle Meredith With. It's the interview series presented by WFPK at WFPK.org, Consequence, and the Consequence Podcast Network. Thanks as always for making your way here and checking out the series. Hopefully you know what to do if you like what you hear. Hit that subscribe button. I put out 3 new interviews every single week, so it's a great way to keep up with your favorite artists, discover some new ones, know what's happening in the music world, at all the usual spots like iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Acast, Podchaser, NPR, YouTube for the video versions, or anywhere you get your podcasts from. I'm Kyle Meredith. Today, my guest, Dream Theater lead singer James LaBrie. We're going to be talking about A View from the Top of the World, the progressive metal band's 15th studio album. The Canadian vocalist is going to take us through the process of the band constructing their own studio and putting the album together during the pandemic, writing the song Aliens after hearing the Joe Rogan Elon Musk interview, and using hope as a destination in their music. Now, LaBrie also tells us how he ended up covering Motley Crue's Kickstart My Heart with the band Falset, and even mentions a little bit about the band's upcoming world tour. So let's get into it, discussing A View from the Top of the World. It's Kyle Meredith with Dream Theater.
Hey, Kyle. How are you?
Well, congratulations on A View from the Top of the World. What a powerful record you guys have put out.
Well, thank you. Yeah, we're pretty excited, and the feedback so far from the fans has been overwhelmingly positive. So, yeah, we're pretty psyched. I guess the only thing to follow it up now is to get out there and start touring, again, which we have every intention starting in February to begin the next world tour. Yeah.
Well, I know part of the story, as you hope for the tour, is also just because of the pandemic, you had to record or work on this a lot separately at first. How did that affect how you approached it, and how much of what was happening around us actually played into, even in the lyrics that you were writing?
I think, fortunately for us, we have our own studio. It's called Dream Theater Headquarters. And we bought this big, we started this big place warehouse, and we renovated the whole front half of the warehouse into the state-of-the-art studio with, full-on living room and a boardroom and a kitchen and a maintenance room and then the control room, the engineer's room where we record all the stuff. And then we have a room where the band sets up, and that's where we do our writing and our rehearsing and so on and so forth. So I think that was very, very crucial to why we were able to go on during a pandemic and get together. And even though all of us, we had been, vaccinated, fully vaccinated, we didn't have to worry about going into a building where there would be several people coming in and out of it. It's our studio. So it was basically the band and our production assistant, Maddie Schaeferstein, who's also John's guitar tech, and then James Meslin, who was our engineer who recorded it. So it was just that. Now, also, that being said, Kyle, I stayed up in Canada, and I was patched in through them via Zoom. And then they were patched into me in my studio in my house. And so I had all their instruments cranking through my speakers in my studio, and vice versa. They had me on a great big monitor screen so they could hear me and see me, and I could contribute and be involved in the writing as well. Because I live in Canada, so the whole idea of me going back and forth into the States at the time that we wanted to start, which was a year ago, October, it was just practically impossible. It was just so difficult, So, but we made it work. As long, like the important thing was the 4 instrumentalists were able to be in the same room, which is imperative to anything like this. Like, you have to be able to feed off each other. There's that physical connection. There's that chemistry, and to be able to, for the 5 of us to have been patched in via Zoom, that would have been just discombobulated for sure.
Yeah, it's worlds ahead of, what we were all capable of doing, even, when
Oh my
you
God.
you started in Dream Theater 30 years ago. But yeah, I was
Yeah.
thinking about, just the technology and the age that we're in. And here we are, like, I start looking at the song Aliens and think of like how we're also in a renewed space age, not just a technology age, but because of technology, a new space age. And
Hmm.
I sort of listen to that song through that lens. What part
Sure.
does it play for you in that song, I guess, specifically?
Are you talking lyrically or
I'm
like
talking lyrically.
over?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, lyrically, I was inspired. My son turned me on to a podcast that Joe Rogan had done with Elon Musk,
Mhm.
and Elon Musk was talking about the whole Mars exploration and terraforming, and eventually, the human species as we know it, the only way that we're going to be infinite and go on to survive is if we start thinking outside of this planet, because eventually we're going to outgrow it or strip it of all its resources. We're kind of a destructive species, aren't we, Kyle?
Oh, we are.
But you know, like holy man. But anyway, so it was a 3-hour podcast, and I listened to it, and I was extremely inspired at the moment. So I did a ton of jot notes, wrote down, and then just from there, I mean, I remember hearing this was actually the first song that we wrote for the album, The Alien, and I knew that I wanted to do that. I just knew that I wanted to do the lyric. I thought with that mindset, like this whole thing, that song, it just has a very spacey, almost like a movie soundtrack kind of feel to it, to me.
Yeah.
And so I just thought of something that was more, sci-fi, and but instead we instead become the aliens, and we were out there, in the universe and terraforming, and maybe other planets that are inhabited already would see us as we see or as we think when we think of aliens. Yeah.
But even in a song like that, there is a chance for continued life for all of us. And
Mm-hmm.
that's something
Sure.
interesting, because when there is a lot of darkness around and there is a lot of dark songs being written, something from you all is there's, even on the darker songs, there ends up being light at the end of the tunnel. There's always seems to be hope with what you all put out. Where does that come from?
Well, I think you just said it yourself, though, Kyle. Is that the fact is, aren't we inundated enough with all the freaking negativity and the darkness, and then people want to perpetuate that and write about it in lyrics. And the other thing is, like, when John Petrucci and I sat down before going in to write the lyrics, the one thing we made evidently clear from the very beginning is we are not writing lyrics about this pandemic. Enough artists, I'm pretty damn sure, are going to do that. So let's let that befall onto them. And we just said, like, let's write what we think. It has to have some significance to us personally, and that's where I've always come from. It has to be something that I'm motivated by or inspired by at that time. And so I think, we always within our lyric want everyone to see at some point, the human spirit, and that we can rise above anything, transcend any negativity, that we are, extremely resilient, and we have to believe in that. And if enough of us believe in it, then it'll be a better place for all of us to live.
Absolutely. I love that. I'll wrap up by complimenting you. You guested on your son Chance's band Falset on their cover of Motley Crue's Kickstart My Heart, which was so fun to listen to. How did you all land on that song, and what's the story there?
Okay, so my son, he's in Falset, and they're actually they came up to me. They just Chance and the guitar player Zach, who also is the singer in the band. They just said, "Hey, would you be willing to sing on this track?" And because I used to be in a band, Kyle, back in the '80s called Shock Candy, and we used to cover a lot of Motley Crue. I mean, I've always thought Nikki Sixx is a brilliant freaking musician and writer, and I did love Motley Crue. And so, anyways, they knew about that, and they said, "You have a history. You sang this stuff." I said, "Yeah, for sure." And they said, "Well, would you be willing to do this track?" And I said, "Absolutely, let's go for it." And so I sang it in my studio here in my house, and we had a great time. And Zach also sang on that as well. He should be credited. But here's the crazy thing. So my tour manager, who's been our tour manager, Dream Theater's tour manager for the last, oh my God, almost 20 years. Rick Fulner, he emailed me and he said, "Hey man, I just got an email from Mick Mars and he heard the track and he absolutely loves it. Thought you guys did a brilliant job." So when I told my son and his bandmates that, they were flipping out. No way.
It is so much fun.
Really cool. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
It is so much fun. And I'll say the same thing about the whole album, A View from the Top of the World. James, you guys knocked it out on this one. I'm looking forward to the tour happening next year. I can't wait to hear that next solo record you've been talking about. But in the meantime, all the congrats on what you've been doing. Great.
Thank you, Kyle. Much appreciated. Okay, take care.
My thanks to James LaBrie. Again, the brand new Dream Theater album is called A View from the Top of the World. Big thanks to you as well for checking out the episode. Please do hit that subscribe button so you can keep up with all the interviews that I put out every single week. That's a new one every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Acast, Podchaser, NPR, YouTube for the video versions, or anywhere you get your podcasts from. Subscribe to Kyle Meredith with. Then after that, head over to WFPK.org. That's where I do a show Monday through Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern. An hour full of song premieres, music news, anniversary spins, and bonus interviews Monday through Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern at WFPK.org. Consequence has your music and film news. You can also find me on the social media spots, including Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all three of them at Kyle Meredith. I do hope you like and follow along. And that does it for another edition. I'm Kyle Meredith. I'll see you next time. Consequence Podcast Network.
It's easy to hear your favorite artist on WFPK from wherever you are. Listen on your smart speaker, live stream from our website at WFPK.org, from Louisville Public Media.